What I have in this box is everything I've ever wanted, and I'm gonna show it to you. Are you ready? Yeah? Good. Here we go. Hey there, how's it going? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. The RG476H was one of my biggest surprises of last year. I mean, this year. It's still 2025, but I already did my end of the year video, so in my head, 2025 is done. In that video, I made a whole dramatic speech about the RG476H. I said that on paper, it wasn't anything special, it was just a very standard retro handheld, but it's so pleasing in all the little ways that it ends up feeling like the perfect normal device. And after I got that, I literally prayed to the handheld gods that Anbernic would take that vibe and make a vertical version. I was not prepared for them to actually listen, for once, because the RG477V is basically everything I asked for. Big screen, big vertical energy, no weird gimmicks, enough power to do a ton of stuff, and the exact kind of retro aesthetic that makes my eyeballs go, ah. So, is this the new king of vertical handhelds, or is it not that? Let's find out. The specs are here. Here's the specs on the screen. I'm not going to read them to you. You can read them yourself if you want to, but let's cover the most interesting ones. This screen is a 4.7-inch LCD, 120 Hz, and this is the same screen that was used on the RG477M and the 476H and the RG Slide. And for the processor, we're using the Dimensity 8300 chip, which is Anbernic's most powerful chipset. The 476H used their slightly less powerful chip, so this is more of a successor to the 477M than the 476H, even though it looks a lot more like the 476H. They only did two different color versions of this. They got black and this lovely retro beige DMG style. I obviously like the retro colorway better. That's kind of my thing, but I really do like the look of that black one too. The price will depend on where you get it and if you have to pay for shipping, if it's on sale, all that. It's about $215 from AliExpress for the base version with shipping included, and you'll pay more if you want more RAM and storage or to have an included SD card. Lit NXT will also have this for sale soon too. I'll put some links in the thingy below if you're interested in picking one up. On the front, we have that big lovely screen, a D-pad over here, and a combo Android back and home button, start and select, face buttons over here, and two wiggle sticks in the lower position. On the left, we have another Android function button and a sneaky hidden SD card hole. On the right, we have volume up and down and a power button. Underneath, we have downward firing stereo speakers. Boo! And a headphone hole. Yay! Alright. Up top, we have some vent holes for airflow and a USB-C hole for charging and video out. Around back, we have some more vent holes for airflow and some shoulder and trigger buttons and a ribbed grippy texture for style and comfort. One of the things that I liked best about the RG476H was the simple design of it that somehow felt premium. I liked the minimalist shape, how it felt like a plain rounded corner handheld without any weird ergonomics or gimmicks, and it just felt great in my hands. I've also learned that I actually love the all-glass front on handhelds. It adds so much to the thing to make it feel premium. The RG477V is honestly everything I could have hoped for in this regard. I think this is the most lovely big vertical handheld that has ever existed. I love the simple design of it, how there's no ergonomic humps. It's no thicker or thinner than it needs to be to strike a perfect balance between form and function. Great little details around wherever you look. Also, check out the D-pad. They did something new. It's so smooth. It's just a flat matte texture, and I think this is a big improvement compared to the D-pads that Anbernic usually does. Ergonomics are a personal thing. Everyone likes different stuff, and that's why something like this makes more sense to me because it's more simple and compatible with a wider variety of hand shapes and grip styles. I much prefer this rather than having specific ergonomics that may or may not jive with my preferences. My only gripe is this swoopy protrusion for the bumpers and triggers. I don't think this is needed for ergonomics, and it takes away from the sleek profile. And it also makes it a tiny bit more awkward in the pocket. Speaking of which, let's do a pocket test with my new temporary pocket test guy. Hello, glad to be here. Yeah, so I'm looking for a new pocket test guy, but it's been hard, what with the economy and whatever. So I just found a temp to help out until I find someone permanent. Right, that's what I'm here for. Happy to help. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just gonna put this RG477V right here in my pocket. like so. It slides in there easy. It's pretty big, but not crazy. The bumper hump protrusions stick out a little bit, and I can feel them. Same thing with the sticks, but overall, these are pretty minor issues, and it's actually totally doable. I'll give this a 7 out of 10 in terms of pocketability. Hope this helps. Wow, that was a really good pocket test. Way better than the last worthless idiot. Thanks, TechDweeb. Happy to help. Enjoy the rest of your show. Huh. Well then. The controls are overall quite lovely. The sticks are great, no cardinal snapping or anything. Kind of on the small side I guess, but totally fine for retro games. I did swap my stick caps though. These are the same standard stick caps that we get on all the retro doodads these days. Is there a name for this style of stick cap? This like post keying? If not, there should be. The original stick caps are these Nintendo style sticks, which are fine. I do like them, but I thought this was a good chance to use my low profile height sticks. And I think these work great here. They lower the profile just a little bit, and they look good too. Great inputs from the D-pad too. Perfect, really. No false diagonals, but it's easy to hit the diagonals when you want to. Great for platformers or fighting games or whatever the heck you want to play. The triggers aren't analog, just clicky digital triggers, which again is probably fine for anything you'll be playing on here. And one nice thing is that these bumpers are nice and quiet. Actually, all the controls are pretty quiet on this thing. That means that this is going to be great if you like to play sneaky, stealthy games in bed and you don't want to wake your wife and make her regret marrying you even more than she already does. Let's jump over to the system, and the Android build that we have on here is pretty bare bones. There's not a whole lot to say. It comes with a whole bunch of apps and emulators that I immediately uninstalled, and then I set it up myself the way I set up all these things, using the method that I show you in this video. Check that out if you want to know how I do it like this. You get a few customizations in the drop-down menu. You can toggle the lights on the start and select. Oh yeah, there's lights there on those words. I immediately turned that off because, I mean, it's just weird to have glowing words. I do kind of like the RGB on the sticks though. It'll be hard to see in the video, but I set these to a pale warm white, like a soft warm light kind of thing. Still has retro vibes and it does look spiffy. You can also toggle the performance mode between 3 modes and change some fan speed presets. I'll talk more about the fan in a bit. For the sound, it's fine.
How's it going?
Downward firing speakers, which obviously isn't ideal, but the sound itself is, it's fine. Not super loud and bassy, but it's good enough for the stuff that you'll be playing on here. The screen is lovely. I think it's fair to say that it's probably the best part of this device. Same screen that we've seen on the 477M and the 476H and the RG Slide. And I loved it there, and I love it here too. It is 4.7 inches. Nice and big, that's what she said. This is the biggest vertical handheld screen that there is. And considering the aging gamer demographic who are into retro games, having your games be big enough to see clearly is definitely going to be better. It's 120 Hz, which is nice for a few reasons. You can use black frame insertion and CRT beam shader stuff to give your screen a more authentic CRT feel. I don't personally care about that stuff. I've tried it, I can turn it on, it's fine. I don't know, it looks basically the same to me whether it's on or off. But if you do like that, you can do that stuff here. The main thing that I like 120 Hz for is just like using the device. Like in the menus and front ends and where all the scrolling is silky smooth like a premium phone. The screen is super bright. This is one of the brightest LCD screens that you can find on a retro handheld, so it's going to be fine for gaming during the day. And it gets nice and dim for gaming
in the darkness.
And most importantly, for me at least, it's a 1280 by 960 resolution, which is a ton of pixels to work with in terms of scaling your retro games. Basically, everything you're going to play on here will be super crispy and beautiful, whether it's upscaled 3D graphics or just good old chunky pixels. 4x3 screen though, so obviously the best stuff to play on here is 4x3 stuff. NES, Super Nintendo, even though those aren't technically 4x3, but you know what I mean. 3D stuff like N64 and Dreamcast and PlayStation, and even GameCube and PS2, all that stuff feels like it's right at home on a 4x3 display like this. Lots of stuff that doesn't scale perfectly is still great on here. You'll have black bars on the sides for Game Boy and Game Boy Color, but they're still nice and big and lovely. GBA is still great, even though that's a 3x2 system, you'll have pretty minimal black bars, and GBA just looks so incredible. I'd be more than happy to play GBA on here. The stuff I'm not a big fan of is the 16:9 stuff. That stuff is playable on here. Like if you're into PSP, then you can play all those games upscaled to 960p resolution and have no problem playing them, and they are big enough to enjoy, and a good amount of Switch and PC emulation does work on here. It just feels so, inelegant. And if there's one thing I'm known for, it's elegance. And now we're at the gaming section of my script, and I'm realizing that we've already been talking about the gaming when we talked about the screen. I should have probably planned this better, but like, that's really the most important thing. The screen is really what makes these games special on this thing. However, you do have the performance to back it up. You can play all the old stuff, no problem. Obviously, all the N64 and Dreamcast and PS1, even Sega Saturn, it all runs great. GameCube and PS2 as well. You can play everything upscaled to 2x or 2.5x resolution. The Mali GPU that we have in this chip isn't quite as compatible as the Adreno GPUs that we get in the Snapdragon chips. So you may find that you're going to have to toggle between OpenGL and Vulkan if a game gives you problems, but those problems are pretty few and far between. Most stuff just works no matter which backend you're using, and works great. At least for the retro stuff. The stuff that is a lot more hit or miss is the modern stuff. Nintendo Switch and PC emulation with GameHub. Switch is the easy one because stuff either works or it doesn't. You won't get the same compatibility here on this chip compared to a Snapdragon chip because we don't get those custom drivers. Not yet, at least. Lots of the games that I tried did work fine, so don't write it off entirely, but some didn't and had visual glitches or missing graphics or outright crashed. Like I said earlier, I personally wouldn't want to play 16:9 games on this screen. But if you do, then just know that there's a chance that your favorite game won't run. Or it'll run, but it'll be weird. Like you. PC emulation is okay. Here's the thing about PC emulation. Again, it comes down to compatibility with this GPU and lack of drivers. And because of that, lots of games will have problems or require extra work for you to figure out. If you're into PC emulation on GameHub, I made a guide of how to troubleshoot getting games working. I go over my method in that video, and that's what I used here. For example, Megabonk was running like garbage by default, but I did the tweaks that I recommend, and now it's running fine. So you just need to be prepared to do a little bit of extra tinkering on this chipset to help with those problematic games. Skyrim also had some pretty major problems, but again, I did some tinkering and I discovered that it was a DXVK version issue, and I found a version that worked. So if you're going to be running PC games on here, then watch my guide so you know how to troubleshoot stuff. And also make sure that you set the emulator resolution to a 4:3 resolution, so you can get basically full screen 4:3 PC games running. Lots of PC games don't even give you a 4:3 option though, so you'll be playing them small with lots of empty space on the screen. I guess I'll sum it up like this. The stuff that doesn't work well is this stuff that I wouldn't want to play on this device even if it did work well. And everything that I want to play, the older retro stuff, runs amazing on here. Basically perfect, and that's why I love this thing. Real quick about the battery. I did 2 battery drain tests. The first was a best case scenario, running NES on the lowest power profile with a 25% screen brightness, no shaders or anything. And like that, I clocked it at 8 hours and 20 minutes of game time. My worst case scenario was running a PS2 game, upscaled to 960p with the frame limiter turned off. And like that, I clocked the battery at 3 hours and 2 minutes. So that's the range, like 3 hours up to 8.5 hours or whatever. When the device gets cooking, the fan will come on, and to be honest, I kinda hate the sound of the fan, especially on the auto mode where it turns on and off all by itself constantly. I found that for my own sanity, I needed to game without the high performance mode turned on, because then I can set a custom fan speed, and I set a speed of 90, which is not at all audible, and it does a fine job at keeping the device cool when high performance mode is turned off. I found that there was barely anything that I needed to turn on the high performance mode for. Even like GameCube and PS2, I'd rather lower the resolution a bit so that I could stay in the lower performance modes, and even then, I very rarely needed to do that. Most stuff ran great, even on the low profile, and the device ran cool and quiet. So, I mean, maybe this thing isn't for everyone. If you want PC games and Switch and PSP, you're probably going to feel let down. But if you want the older 4:3 stuff, forget about it. This is it. This is amazing. If you want a vertical, then this is the one. I freaking love this handheld. I'm sorry for yelling, but I feel strongly about it. It feels like the handheld that I've been waiting for. Something big and comfy with an amazing screen, all the retro vibes, sleek and elegant and premium and powerful enough to play all the 4x3 stuff and super battery efficient for the lower end stuff. I feel like this could be a new favorite for me, like an all-time favorite. At the very least, I feel like this should be among my favorite devices of the year. I love it that much. I've only had it a few days though, so we'll see how I feel in a few weeks after the honeymoon period has worn off. Also, it's a shame that I didn't get this like 5 days ago and I could have included it in my Doodads of the Year video. Ah well, that's a lesson for another year. Don't do my end of the year video until the actual end of the year. Live and learn. Or if you're me, live and make the same mistake again in the exact same way next time. Anyways, let me know what you think of this thing in the comments, and there's a like and subscribe button down there too, but that's for cool people and you should only click that if you're cool. Don't click it if you're not though. That would be dishonest and make you a poser and even less cool than you already are. And that's it from me for today. I'm TechDweeb, thanks for watching, bye bye.